3 steps to deal with people with huge ego. Okay, so the why, the purpose, is essentially that we're going to come across people who are aggressive, who are loud, who share dominant energy, right? Who want you to conform to them. Ultimately, the impact of their immaturity means that you have an opportunity, doesn't it? Now, essentially, I don't think we need to go any more into the why. I could tell you a story. Recently I began to have a coworker who honestly is a beautiful guy. He's a kind man, but you could label him maybe hot-headed. And my way of dealing with him has honestly unfolded to be quite beautiful, if I may say, without, patting myself too much. But there were many days where the context is that we're working on loud machinery. So he communicates to me a lot of the time like, with hand gestures, we're maybe 10 or 20 feet apart. And, right? So it may seem more aggressive than it is. That's the context, right? Because if we can't hear each other's words, that may make him, right, a little bit. And especially, here's something I've noticed, and if you're a man or a lady who's used any heavy machinery before, whether it be an excavator, a forklift, etc., things of that nature, you're going to notice that using machinery can bring you into a certain state. Hence road rage, right? We all know people have, it's like you feel you're protected in that thing, but so you hear what I'm getting at, yeah? Let's look at the what. What are the 3 steps to dealing with people with huge ego? I would say step number 1 is getting clear on the context. That's what we just did. And I gave you an example. If the context of heavy machinery may bring up the aggressive of human communication, may bring up the dial, the sound, etc., the volume. That's the word I was looking for. So then what's the theory, right? Step number 1, understand the context and the theory. So, who are you speaking with? What's the nature of the environment? Just to ask yourself a few questions. That's step number 1, so that you're not looking at this situation blindly. Step number 2, to deal with people with huge ego. After you ask yourself a few questions and you're extraordinarily clear on the context, ask, what type of person is this? Because first you need to understand the environment and the context, but step number 2 is understanding their personality, how they act, how they live, how they move. Of course, you may not have all these details at your fingertips, right? And you're not going to be like, hey man, what time do you go to sleep? Like, you can ask that, but you don't need to. More so, it is a patient observing. So this is really step number 2. Patiently observing how they treat others, how they treat you, how they speak to themselves, because that can give you a little compassion for this situation. What we're talking about here is dealing with people who are assertive, aggressive, and who want you to conform. And you're going to be wise and notice that there are moments to listen to them, and there are moments to walk away, and there are moments to stand your ground. And the only way that you're going to be fully capable of feeling what to do and when to do it is by executing on step number 1 and step number 2. We get the context, the theory. Then we understand their personality, how they speak to others, how they speak to themselves. What type of person are they? Step number 3 is going to be listening to how you feel in relationship to how they treat you. Okay? So that means when this guy's going, I'm like, I feel sometimes it's clear. Sometimes I'm like, sometimes I'm like, and then sometimes I'm like, oh, what's that mean? Right? Etc., etc. And those are just a few metaphors for you. But yeah, you know what that means, right? You feel that in your heart sometimes too. I know I'm not alone. That growl, that rage. And it's not a bad thing as long as you notice it and you listen to it. Now, if I feel the rage and then I egotistically get big and match him, now there's a way of matching others' energy with wisdom. And that comes in the form of spontaneity. You cannot, let me tell you this real clear, okay? When you are dealing with people who are aggressive, who have big egos, your action cannot be predictable. You have to be vital, spontaneous, and so innocent that you cannot be hurt by someone with a big ego. And this can only happen through the steps I'm speaking of. The third step is the biggest one, because it's your listening to your own ego's reactions that can help you dissipate the need to be right, the need to be bigger, to win, to be competitive, to meet fire with fire. You understand what I'm saying? You don't always have to meet fire with fire. I would say very little, it's scarce. When you need to meet fire with fire, that's not going to happen often in your life. It may happen in some periods of your life, and then it'll change. Because what we need to realize here is, first of all, people with big egos come into your life to teach you. I need you to hear me, okay? People with big egos enter your life to teach you. And if you're bickering, complaining, judging, talking about what they need to change, giving them advice, please, that's not it. That is not it. That's not it. It's more so noticing all of that in yourself and then seeing how futile, pull that one out of somewhere, futile, how irrelevant the squandering of your energy is. Now, let's take a step back and give you overall, right? We have our 3 steps, and we also need to get clear on like why and what, how, and what if. So, I mean, we did go into that a bit, but the why is like they come into your life to teach you. That's the purpose. That's the real purpose. Now the what, understanding their personality, understanding who they are, how they treat others, how they treat themselves. That's going to help you play the situation smoothly. You have to be aware and listen. Listen in this way, not listen to their words, but listen to what's beyond their words, right? Their energy, okay? Notice that. Notice how they move. Because even big ego people, they're not always in big ego mode. You know this. I know you're smart enough to understand what I'm saying. Even people who are aggressive, they're not always aggressive. Even the strongest cats, they gotta sleep too. So what I'm saying is, like, what's the how? The how is, understanding the context of theory, paying attention to their personality, getting to know them, getting to listen to who they really are. And then as that happens, you're going to have the space and compassion for them to realize that you don't need to be judging them. And when you're not judging them, then you can listen and do step number 3, right? Listening to your own reactions when they're operating through big ego energy, aggression, whatever. Hopefully that makes sense. In the what if, right, you'll start to see that you can be friends with people who you never thought you could be friends with. That's what I'm going to tell you. Is the guy who I initially perceived, right, he's mad, he's big-headed. I'm not saying he's let go of all that, but I'm saying I can sit next to him and we can laugh together. How does that happen? It would not happen if I got so stuck in my own stuff, right? But since I notice it and I let it go, we can be friends. We can be, have beautiful moments together. And I'll tell you, that's priceless. To see that which you could not do in the past, to see your behavior, your heart opening up and shifting, no one can give you that sort of feeling of saying, wow, my life is changing. My life, almost like tears, I can feel them. I can feel the tears. Wow. So that's it. 3 steps to deal with huge ego people. Step number 1, context theory. What's the situation? They're meant to teach you. Step number 2, listen to them, how they speak, their cadence, their tones, how they speak to themselves, how they speak to others, how they think. Step number 3, notice your reactions to when they're acting with that big energy. Notice your reactions to when they're not acting in that big energy. Understand what's happening within your heart when you're in contact with that energy. Look at your own thoughts that stem from that interaction with big ego people. Okay? Okay, let's do it. Bottom line is, sign up for the email. If you resonated with this, you'll love the email. 3 to 4 emails a week, totally free, big value, extraordinarily precise. We're doing it. Let's do it. Have a great day. Appreciate you.